Okay, great.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if your government is against the idea of Afrocentric schooling by the Toronto Public School Board, what other strategies would you suggest?
Well, what we believe is that there need to be strategies in place to help all students who are struggling, which is why we have put student success teachers into all of our secondary schools. We've put new programs in place to help students who weren't able to complete a credit to recover that credit, so credit recovery programs, more co-op programs, opportunities for dual credits, which are when a student can study at high school and also college at the same time. So those are all strategies to help kids who aren't necessarily going to graduate from high school to do that, to stay in school and to graduate. As well, we have put thousands, there are about 9,000 more teachers in the school system now than there were when we came into office, and many of those are teachers in elementary schools to make primary class sizes smaller. So nearly 90% of kindergarten to grade 3 classes are 20 students or fewer. And what that means is that little kids have the opportunity to have more contact with their teachers, and they will do better because they've had more attention early on. So all of those are strategies that help all kids. In terms of particular groups, so boys don't do as well at school or in literacy as girls do, for example. We've got special programs and resources for teachers to deal with those kids. We have an Aboriginal education framework, so particular programs and language programs for Aboriginal kids. And we're working with the Aboriginal community to refine that, and we've actually put money in the funding formula for Aboriginal education. So we recognize that there are certain groups who need support. Students with special needs need support. So I believe in those kinds of targeted resources. The Toronto District School Board is developing curriculum for Afrocentric curriculum, and I think that that's a good way to go because that kind of curriculum could be used anywhere. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be in a particular school. So those are the kinds of strategies that we support.
Okay.
Minister, we are aware that there are existing alternative schools, like the Jewish schools, the Hebrew schools, that are privately funded. If the government will fund the Afrocentric schools, would this not pose a potential problem, as it will be a precedent for the other alternative schools to also ask for government funding?
So let me just be clear. Alternative, there are, we just need to get the terms so we understand what they are. So alternative schools, as we talk about them, are schools that are developed by the school boards. They are funded out of the school board's regular budget. So students, there's money that flows to school boards because of the number of students they have. And that money can be used in a mainstream classroom or it can be used in an alternative school. Private schools are something separate. Private schools are called private schools or independent schools, okay? We don't fund private schools. We don't fund independent schools. And the only way in which we fund alternative schools is that we fund students and we fund programs, and school boards can organize those students and those programs the way they choose. Okay? So we are not funding explicitly the Afrocentric school. The Toronto District School Board has the right to set up alternative schools. Under the Education Act, they can set up alternative schools, and there are a couple of dozen, if not more, alternative schools already in the Toronto District School Board. And there are other alternative programs in other parts of the province, and those are funded as every other school is funded. So we are not giving any additional funding for the Afrocentric school. So I don't see it as a precedent. It's not the same thing at all as funding private schools. And the other reality is that the Education Act does not allow schools based on faith to be set up as alternative schools within the system. So that's the law.